why would he treat me this way? How could you possibly do this to me? And suddenly it just dawned on me, like the clouds parting and the sun coming out. And I just immediately stopped crying because I realized that this wasn't about him at all. Hey everyone, it's Adele. Today I want to talk about Breeny Lee. She is a beautiful, talented beauty influencer, but she's also like really into pep talks, women's empowerment, relationship advice, and she's recently just come out spilling the details of her horrible breakup. There were a number of things that kind of stood out to me as like warning flags for her to avoid this happening to her again in the future. So I kind of broke it down to three areas that I'm going to talk about in this video. The first is how to get a man to actually act the way you want him to. Okay, she went about that the wrong way. The second is how to deal with men who have female friends that's causing you problems in your relationship. I have a tried and true method for that as well. And the third is about race. Stay tuned. So first of all, who am I? Well, some of you know me from my YouTube channel where I talk about entrepreneurship, personal development, spirituality, nature, natural health. My backstory, I come from a very traumatic, abusive, neglectful background. It was filled with poverty. I spent like the first few years of my life locked in a bedroom. I've made videos showing and talking about how if you want to know, kind of get a glimpse of what my childhood was like, watch the movie Precious. Like my mom even looked like the mom from that movie. I have had to build myself up from the very beginning with no family support, a lot of times no money, no self-confidence. I just had a lot of faith in something different for my life. I had faith in God. I worked hard and I just never gave up. And so that's kind of what's led me to where I am today. I've published a book about my life. I created a successful and thriving business on YouTube that I ran a while back. I've traveled around the world, meeting with experts. I've been in therapy for many years, but somehow I managed to avoid a pregnancy, drugs, and alcohol. I kind of always kept my eyes on God and on a vision that's higher for myself in the future. And even though I still struggle with a lot of things to this day, I'm living a life that I really wanted. You know, I live here on a farm with my husband. We have like a lot of animals, live really beautiful out in the country. So the first thing I want to talk about is a number of times in the video talking about all the things that her ex did. Breeny talks about how he should have acted. So for example, she talks about how when she moved and she was telling him, you know, I need help, and he would say, oh, don't buy so much things, or, you know, if you can't lift it, don't buy it. And she would say, excuse me, you should be here helping me, you should be concerned for me, you should show up for me and, you know, want to be part of this. And I would argue, no, he shouldn't. He shouldn't. Why should he, girl? Come on. The way that anyone acts is a result of their mindset, their mental health, their upbringing, their beliefs and values. So however anyone is acting in the world is exactly how they should act. So what I want to talk about here is how when we get into romantic relationships, there's a part of our brain that starts to see our partner as a parental figure. You know, a lot of why you hear people saying like, oh, he married someone just like his mom. And the funny thing is, we're not looking for someone on paper who will remind us of our mom. Like, oh, she was this tall and she had this color of hair, whatever. No, it's about a person who gives us the same comfortable feeling, the same underlying undealt with feeling that our parents gave us. So for women, it's usually their father, or it could be the parent with whom you had the most conflict, right? So for me, because I didn't grow up with a father, it was usually men who reminded me of the horrible feelings from my abusive mother that I would find myself in relationship with. So I really wanted to say that to Breeny. You saying like, how does he hate me so much? And I'm like, he doesn't hate you, girl. He hates his mother. And it's not a conscious thing. I'm sure if you probably asked this man, like, hey, do you hate your mom? Most people don't say that. They say, oh no, I love my mom. She tried the best, whatever. Most people are like the people that Johann Goethe talked about in his quote that I absolutely love, which is that men are not evildoers, but sleepwalkers. Okay? Humanity, the majority of us are not trying to be out here lying like, oh, I love my mom. We're just sleepwalkers. We're not aware of our underlying emotions. We're not journaling. We're not going to therapy. We're not sitting quietly with ourselves. We're not questioning our behavior and our thoughts. Most people are just trying to get through all of the pain, ignore it, put it on the back burner, and then it just sneaks out in our romantic relationships. An example of how this might show up is, and I've seen this before, is if you have let's say a mother who says like about her son, like, oh, he's so perfectly well behaved. He didn't go through teenage rebellion at all. And then this guy gets, married or whatever, and his wife asks him to take out the garbage. And he's not aware of it, but in his mind, he's not hearing his wife asking him to take out the garbage. He's hearing his mom asking him to clean his room. And this rebellion that he never had against her is going to come to the surface. Another aspect of this is when Breeny is talking about how she's saying to this guy, you should be here helping me. Why are you not backing me up? Why are you not showing up for me, Breeny? Just as he's seeing you as his mother, when you're in that state of pain and complaint, you're in your child self too. When was the first time that you felt like someone should have been there for you and they weren't? I've got a story time for you. I experienced this in a relationship in my early 20s. It was a dysfunctional, thankfully short relationship that first opened my eyes to deeper levels of what was going on in relationship for me. I was with a man who was constantly, he had these girlfriends that were constantly hanging around. He was best friends with his ex. I'd never experienced anything like this before. And I remember he would constantly kind of like pit us against each other subtly, or he would like leave me to go hang out with on a kind of a friend date with a woman. And these girls treated me very strangely, and I just remember it was so painful to me. And I'd probably known him for like a few months. And I remember I was in my room bawling my eyes out from the depths of my soul, okay? To the point where my roommate came and knocked on the door and she's like, are you okay? Like, she was like, girl was worried I was gonna jump off the building or something with the way I was sounding. And I remember saying like, why would he treat me this way? How could you possibly do this to me? And suddenly it just dawned on me, like the clouds parting and the sun coming out, and I just immediately stopped crying because I realized that this wasn't about him at all. I was saying like, but I love him, and this voice, this clarity came over me, and I'm like, no, I don't love him. I don't even know him. And also, this is not about him. This is about my mother. It just hit me. My mother had died maybe 6 months prior. And I really hadn't dealt with the grief at all. I didn't know how. But all of these feelings were resurfacing for me. And, my mother would often leave me in a car to go party with her friends, or she'd bring me to a party and stick me in a corner and ignore me. Or, I was always like a burden, and other people were way more interesting to her. This clown I was dating, he was bringing that up in me. And these feelings, these torturous feelings of betrayal and abandonment, it had nothing to do with him. It was my own issues. And when I kind of realized that, I was able to detach from the whole situation very quickly.
This doesn't mean that what he was doing was justified. It just dawned on me that he wasn't doing it to me. He would have done it to any woman in my place. I was doing it to myself by being with him, and that I had the power to just walk away, which I did.
So I want to talk about also men with these female friends. So in the video, she talks about how he would, for example, her ex would never let her drive his car, but then he had all these female friends that were, he would do whatever for them. And he texted her telling Breeny like, oh, I lent my friend my car and I feel really bad about her having it now. And I remember that seemed like a very strange thing to do because it didn't sound like he was close to her at all, where he's like share his feelings with her. So I remember thinking, why would he send her that text? And that's when I realized, oh, so on top of triangulation, he's also passive aggressive. He sent that text to hurt her feelings, knowing full well that, that he never let her drive. So he's like giving his car to another woman. So let's talk briefly about triangulation. Triangulation is a manipulation tactic that insecure people use to pit other insecure people against each other to make the person at the center seem more valuable. The two people who are kind of being pit against each other are sitting there bickering back and forth and angry at each other while they're not realizing that at the center there's a clown pulling the strings. My advice here, of course, is to let men with close female friends that they want to do date-like things with and click like on their sexy photographs on social media, let those men go. Let them go be with women who will love them because they also engage in that behavior with men. Yes, let him go find a woman who has a lot of attractive male friends who she's giving attention to on a regular basis. Let them be together. I also want to say that I didn't realize this in my 20s, so this is so important to me to tell women, but you don't have to be in relationships with men who have female friends, close female friends. You don't. It's not about trying to change someone or explain anything to them. If someone has a value where they have close female friends and that's not something that you want to have in your relationship, let them go. Get another one. Oftentimes people will say it's about maturity, but it's not really about maturity. It's about these feelings of insecurity. They want to hold on to these people. They want to have people on the back burner. They want attention from the opposite sex to feel validated. They won't admit it to themselves. They won't admit it to other people. You can find people who are mature in a way that recognize, hey, we're human beings. Oftentimes there's unspoken feelings between close relationships with the opposite sex. And if a relationship is important to a man, he wouldn't want to do anything that understandably would risk that relationship or make his partner feel uncomfortable. There's a really great video on this from the Crappy Childhood Fairy. I'll link it below. Make sure you check it out. So the best way to get a man to behave the way you want him to when he's not treating you right, get in close. This is very important. You don't.
We are not here to be grooming and hygiene coaches. We're not here to be men's dating and etiquette teachers. We're not psychotherapists. We're not life coaches for these men. It's different if you find yourself or like your values are different, where it's like, oh, I like Italian food. Oh, I like Mexican food. There's differences in values there. Okay, sure. But when you're seeing a difference in values where this person's like, has something about their life that is very different from you, or a way that they treat women, or a way that they are in the world, and it doesn't work for you, please do not waste your breath and your time trying to dog train them to become who you want them to be. Look at what's right in front of you and take it at face value. This is the process of dating. It's getting to know the way a person is to decide if they would fit into your life and if they would be of benefit to you and your life, and if you could be of benefit to them. If you find yourself trying to explain to them, to change them, to correct their behavior, you're not a dog trainer. It's just a difference in values and lifestyle, and these things are very unlikely to change. So it's a really good sign to just wish that person well with a smile on your face and move on.
This is a big problem that I've seen in women in their 20s. It's something that I went through. My greatest regret in life was having boyfriends. Ladies, why are we having boyfriends? Why? Why? Is it to have someone to help you move? Breeny, you got a lot of money. Hire someone for that. Is it for someone to go out and have fun with? You have friends for that. My advice to all young women is to keep men as friends. Keep them as friends in a group context. Keep working on yourself, on your body, on your business, on your therapy, on getting your mind right. Don't let these men in to start messing with your dopamine, your reward centers, making you feel this longing inside and these problems, the romance and the love that you feel. It's chemicals in your brain. You have to be dating with a strategy, okay? You can't just be going out there with all of your beautiful tender heart and all of your wounds and insecurities and just kind of signing on with some guy who comes along and kind of is nice for a little while and gives you the tinglies. It's not hard for a guy to be nice for a week, a few months. You'll find that if you're not giving them sex, they're not going to be that nice for very long. So my advice to women is to know what you want. If you're going to date, do not involve sex or romantic touch in your dating life. Save that for your married life. That is like something that can cement your bond. It does it chemically, it does it physically. You can't control that from happening. And if you're giving that part of yourself to men who you're probably going to break up with in, I don't know, a few months or a year, that's how your heart becomes broken more and more over time. It's not worth it. I know when I started dating for the first time and I had like a man who was like interested in me, I remember feeling like, wow, this is what it's like to have support, to be loved, right? I came from a family where there was not very much love, nurturing, or affection. So, someone who wants to hold and hug me and ask me how I'm doing and offer to help me, that was just so appealing to me because the void I had for that was so deep. And what you realize later in life, often, after you've had your heart broken numerous times, is that void can never be filled by a man. Even when you're married, that void cannot be filled by a man, right? We try to fill these depths in our soul, this feeling for transcendent passion and love. We try to fill it with romantic relationships, shopping, food, whatever it is. It will always be there. This is why you have to have some kind of spiritual practice. Myself, I believe in God. I don't have a choice. I can't deny God's presence in my life that I have felt since I was a little girl. That was what got me through going to church, and in my most low times, having no friends, being poor, looking really unattractive, getting abused at home, having to sit and cigarette smoke day and night, my mother's, abusive boyfriends stealing her away from me. The thing that kind of kept me going was having been in church and hearing God loves you. God loves little children. You have to have the faith of a mustard seed. God can do anything. That was what kept me going, and that's what keeps me going today. And the love of God or some kind of spiritual practice is something that will legitimately fill and satisfy you. Nothing of this world ever will. The third point I wanted to bring up is about race. I'm not sure what the racial makeup was here, but a person could argue that she was treated badly because of her race, or that her boyfriend treated her badly because of his race, whether he was white or black, whatever it is, I don't know. People could have any kind of stereotype about what happened. So one thing I want to say is that this happens to women of all races. Okay, this is why it's so important for us to form a sisterhood, to share our stories with everyone and anyone who can listen. I was watching a movie yesterday. I like really old movies. This was like from the 50s. Women back then, they were so embarrassed if their relationships were going bad. They hid it. They lied for their husbands. Now, ladies, we are speaking out. When we all get together and raise our standards for dealing with men, the men will have to step up. As many of you know, I grew up in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I had friends from all different racial backgrounds throughout my whole life, and I've seen this happen to all kinds of women where I'm asking them, like, why are you putting up with this? I had one of my really good friends in my 20s, and she was this beautiful blonde girl, and she was dating this guy, this older guy. And I just didn't like him. I just thought he was such a loser. He didn't treat her well. And I remember her calling me crying one day about how he was going out to dinner with his female friend, and she didn't feel good about this friend. So she's like, okay, well, can I come? And he's like, yeah, you can come. And then she looked at the restaurant they're going to. She couldn't afford it. So she told her boyfriend, again, don't have boyfriends, ladies. She told her boyfriend about this, And he told her, well, I guess you can't come then, because she couldn't pay for herself. Ladies, there are some aspects that melanated women have to watch out for in a North American society, though. Things like men who fetishize you, men who may see us as an exotic thing that they kind of want to try out, but they don't feel comfortable committing or marrying a woman from a certain race or background. You really have to watch for all of these things. I'm actually working on a book about it right now. I hope you found this video helpful. I'm gonna link some videos where I've talked about these kind of things a bit more in depth, ways for women to build their self-esteem and watch out for certain things in dating. It's so important. This is one of the ways that women can get really caught up in life and really thrown off guard and off your game. And you are here with a purpose. You are here with some kind of talent, some kind of passion, something that God put in you that this world can benefit from. Let me know in the comments below, what is an amazing thing about you? A talent that you were born with, that your ancestors put through in you. For me, it's healing, working with animals, storytelling, writing, all kinds of creative things. Let me know yours in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.